What is your definition of success? Just maybe in life in general. What you may be taken from MMA.
It's not always skill that wins you a fight.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be the better fighter to win a fight. You just have to know how to win.
If they show up every day at the gym, well, that's all you need to know. Like they're
Right.
there every single time. And this is actually science that if you show up every day, you're going to get good at whatever the fuck you're doing.
Right. Like when it comes to like martial arts culture in general, or like at least the culture in MMA gyms, like you can't like ask for what you want. Like you just have to demand it, like with violence.
How does it feel to be in such like a guy dominant sport?
It's not always, you don't always need to have better skill. Like if you just have like if you just commit to something enough, like you could break people.
You know, sometimes when I don't do good, I kind of beat myself up a little bit, but then I've kind of learned to like tone it down a little bit just because I'm like, well, fuck, like you're putting in the inputs. I mean, eventually you'll get the outputs. Like, you know, the term saying leave your ego at the door?
Yeah.
We're egocentric people. You know what I mean?
And
We all
fighting
have
is
it.
So put in more hours than you think you can.
Yeah.
And then you will get good against your own freaking will.
How does it feel to be a woman in a guy dominant sport where the women's division is still on the rise?
Main thing I would say, it feels like I always have something to prove, and that like I always have to prove that I am, instead of like just, I feel like a man who's a fighter, even if he's not very good or doesn't have a lot of skill, like he's not questioned. Like he's just like, I'm a fighter. Like, okay, you look like one.
Yeah.
I feel like I always have to, every time like I spar with someone, whether it's a girl or a guy, if there's like anyone watching, I feel like how I do, it's not just for me, it's like for other women too. Like
Yeah.
they're also going to be judged on how I perform.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a weird one because I always think about that, how like getting into a woman's psychology about what does it actually feel, how does it feel to be in such like a guy dominant sport? And then obviously we all train together. We've all like kind of become family now, and we're kind of used to each other.
Yeah.
You know, training with each other, and we know how we spar. Especially with me and you, we go on Saturdays. But does it feel any less different now, or is it you just kind of breathe it now? Like you're just kind of like, oh, okay, this is normal. Like I got my homies over here, and you're just kind of like, or does it still feel kind of weird? It's kind of like
Like the
adjusting.
ratio of
Exactly, like
sexual
adjusting to
weight.
like sparring mostly guys. I know there's some girls over there, obviously, like that do jiu-jitsu, like Emily and that fight. But is it still kind of like, oh wait, you're kind of like the odd quote unquote man out because you are a female?
I'm not like thinking about it most days when I walk in the gym, because it's just home to me. And like, yeah, like even my old gym, I would mostly spar dudes. Everyone
Yeah.
was always the smallest one.
Yeah, I know. That's
A lot of times only
yeah,
girls,
ferocious one too,
shortest
right?
one. I like had to be kind of.
Yeah. Do you?
But it doesn't bother me, especially like men, especially like men from the Western world. Like I feel like they're all used to training with women, so a lot of times I feel like they give me good work. They don't treat me any different. Like the majority.
That's actually an interesting perspective. How you just said, like men in the Western world, because yeah, that kind of makes me think a little bit. Because do you think that has something to do? So, I guess men not from the Western world, do they have that culture of just what like treating their women like traditionally, like they don't want to hurt their woman? Is that what you're trying to say, or is that like they're more? I guess you could say light when it comes to say. Oh, they're not as ferocious when fighting like the opposite sex.
It depends. Like some men, their religion doesn't even permit them to touch women. So like,
That's a great
if
point.
I greet everyone in the gym like with a hug, a fist bump, something like that. So like even a fist bump will be kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be like totally inappropriate to spar with them at all. And then other men just either like, they'll just kind of think that you're something to play with. Like, oh, like I'm just gonna like let her hit me.
Oh, it's just like, oh, that's so cute, right?
Or they like pretend it's that. Like they're like, oh, I bet she's not gonna hit me, and then I hit them, and they're like, oh, I'm letting her hit me. I'm like,
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel at all? Is it just like, are you used to that, or does it make you feel somewhat like lesser? Is it just kind of like, wait, I'm not to be I'm taking this seriously. Like, I'm not the one to be fucked with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or is it just like whatever to you? It's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like a guy girl dynamic, and when it comes to like the fighting world.
I mean, like when it comes to like martial arts culture in general, or like at least the culture in MMA gyms, like you can't like ask for what you want. Like you just have to demand it, like with violence or
Oh, okay,
or
yeah,
like
interesting.
with your body, how you're
Sure,
going
yeah.
with somebody. So like if they're not taking me seriously, I've learned to just like make them take me seriously, because like I know I can hurt anyone. Then
That's for sure. Yeah.
so
Yes.
like at some point, like you're gonna take me seriously because
Yeah.
I just kicked you really hard or like caught you with something. So
Right. And that's what I noticed about, obviously fighting females and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't matter. If you could fight, right? There's no like
Right.
discrimination. I know biologically there's like a sense of like, oh yeah, guys are like stronger than women. But then if like we're even keel standing up and we're just kind of sparring and we're just basing it off of technique, it's like, bro, some females like you are just savages. It's like, I noticed that. And I also noticed that it's like intermediate work too, because when we spar, it's almost like you're hitting me from the same side, like same side combos, which is confusing, right? Because you'll go for people that haven't fought and stuff. It's like you'll jab and then you'll use the other hand because your weight is on the other side, and then you use
like
that.
left, right, left, right.
Exactly,
kinda.
left, right, because your weight shifts, and then the other person knows that you're gonna go the other side almost, so you expect to block the other way. But talking more like on the intermediate, you kind of do the same side, and then you hide your two behind like the kick. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that beginners probably won't know. But what is it about the sport of like MMA or even just Muay Thai? Like, what is it? The primal aspect of it, just because we're primal human beings, that you decided to train? What got you into it?
I started off just like discovering that I like to watch fights. I didn't really understand fighting. I think I would have loved it like as a child if I was introduced to it, but I just never really understood. Like I remember hearing about Ronda Rousey when she was being like on a tear, and then I saw a video of her like breaking someone's arm, and that was like my first exposure to MMA. So I was like, oh, this is like gross. So they just let like one person break another person's arm or like beat their face in, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I thought it was like two to death kind of thing. Like I didn't know you could like tap. I didn't know like what a submission really was. Like I thought she was just like in there fucking destroying shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, Jesus Christ.
She was just
I
trying
don't
to
want
work
no
the
part
arm.
of this.
Yeah.
And then later on when I was like 20, I came across Angela Lee's fights.
Yeah.
rest
Badass
in
Muay
peace.
Thai. Yeah.
But and like a submission specialist too.
Yeah,
and
submission
I like
specialist,
was watching her fight, and I like saw like the game planning in it, and then like her strategy and like what her strengths were. She was like so dominant in a very certain way. So I was like, oh, this is like a strategic kind of sport. It's not like gory and violent like could be, but that only makes like the strategy even more like apparent and like consequential.
And this was before you started fighting, like before you got
Yeah.
into it. Yeah, you noticed all that.
Yeah, I started watching fights, and then like a week later, I just signed up for a gym that was near my house.
Yeah.
Like it just looks fun. I just want to try it. And like,
And then that's kind of like history was made.
yeah,
Yeah. You never stopped ever since. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I always like to ask that question. Everyone has a different reasons for fighting. And, as you know, some are addicts, some didn't grow up. Some grew up poor and, they're fighting for that. Some are fighting for their families. Some are fighting just to get healthy. It's always interesting, I think, what the reason is. Because, just like me, I watched Mike Tyson and, Manny Pacquiao and all that. And I thought it was just cool. It wasn't no reason like, man, like, oh yeah. I thought it was just like a guy thing to do. So I was okay, that's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, that's where that's how I started off. But how would you advise, particularly, especially women? Because so I was talking to a friend, right? And I was telling her when I first got into jiu-jitsu, I was like, yeah, you should like take jiu-jitsu with me. It's really fun. Like everyone loves it. It gets addicting. But her being like a woman, and I could understand, what advice would you give to like other women for a like a grab heavy grappling kind of sport? You know, because I understand that it may feel like uncomfortable to a lot of women that, yeah, I mean, even I felt uncomfortable when I was like,
Right.
wait a minute, someone's gonna grab me? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like someone looking into trying out like BJJ.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you had to describe it, because we all know it's fun
Yeah.
as shit.
Yeah, but
yeah.
like it's weird, and like just be okay with that. And this is to guys and girls, because I don't think it's just like, yeah, if it's a male dominated mat, like that might feel really weird to have like guys rolling around, sweating on you, grabbing you, and you're grabbing them. But like I think for guys it's also kind of weird, you know. So I think, you know, everyone just know that everyone's uncomfortable at the beginning. Like even for a dude to roll with
Yeah.
other dudes or roll with other women, it's like it's just not something that you're used to. Like the most contact you probably get with strangers is like maybe a side hug.
Right, exactly.
So just like know that it's gonna be weird and just like find the humor in it, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. You know what I noticed when ever since I started doing jiu-jitsu, even with guys, girls, whatever, I'm not scared to, it's kind of like a affection based kind of thing. Like say if I'm at work, some people, not that I try to make them feel uncomfortable, but then I won't feel myself being uncomfortable like leaning, you know, on like my coworker or something. It's just, it's that,
Right, yeah.
yeah, it's just like you're so used to the touch energy feeling that like even for like a stranger, and it's more in a non like threatening way. It's not like I'm grab assing them or anything, but
Yeah.
you'll just kind of lean in like a non-threatening way, and it's just completely normal. And I think that comes from like jujitsu. And what I noticed from that is that it just like touch makes people closer. You know, obviously if you
Yes.
do it in a non like
And like struggle and like the back and forth, that makes people be like, you're
Yeah.
just like me, I'm just like you.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like I heard of it like talking with your body. I guess you know it's kind of like
And like once you know you like do a little fist bump to start a round,
Yeah.
you don't like, you won't see that person as like, oh, this is so and so, he's a man, or this is a woman. It's just like, this is my training partner or slash opponent, and like all I see is like jujitsu in that moment, or sparring. Like all I see is the striking,
Yeah.
the fighting in that moment. So you don't really see the person even necessarily.
Yeah.
They're just a problem to solve.
Yeah, it's kind of like a flow state, like anything else, right? At the end of the day, it's like any other skill, whether you're touching someone or not. It's just,
Yeah.
it just feels so natural when you keep doing it and doing it and
Right.
doing it.
And I promise when you're getting like smashed, or you're focused on smashing somebody, or you're getting your like arm stretched out, like you're not thinking, oh, it's so weird to be rolling with a dude, or like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so weird to be touching a woman. You're like,
That's very true.
you know, so like,
That's very true.
don't even worry about that part, you know. I'll
What,
take care of itself.
where do you think the addiction comes from? Like, particularly for you, what do you think addicts you to martial arts in general, whether it's jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or MMA in general?
Yeah, there's like nothing more satisfying than just knowing that you're progressing in like whatever it is. And but I was never really interested in my progress in anything else. Like there are other things that came naturally to me, other paths I might have wanted to pursue, but like I didn't really care about being the best in them. Like I've never like ever since I was growing, like when I was a child, I always like wanted to be like known for being really good at something. But like all the things that I was like semi good at, like maybe art, like which I love doing art, but I've never thought like, man, I gotta be the greatest artist in the world. Like
Yeah.
I want like to be better than all these other artists, or like, you know, I really was like science too. I wanted to be a doctor at one point, but of course I'd want to be a good doctor. I never want to be a bad doctor, but I never had a thought like I want to be like a famous doctor. I want to be like known for being the best.
Sure,
It's like,
absolutely.
no, I just want to be good at it and like live my life.
Yeah.
But like fighting was the first thing where I was like, I need to be the greatest in the world. Like I will need to reach that. And if I don't, like I need to know that I spent all the time that I could
Yeah.
trying to get there. And like it's not even really about being better than everyone else. It's just like about knowing that I took myself to my limit.
Right. It's almost like you're proving yourself.
Right.
Like, yeah, and that's great because you know what they say. It's like comparison is the thief of joy. And honestly, a lot of faults, we mentioned this on the other podcast with Aram, like a lot of my fault, and not only me, like a lot of other people too, is that they at times they tend to compare themselves to someone else because we are social human beings, and it's almost like, wait a minute, like I've been training for X amount of time, and then it's almost like, how come you got better than me? But it's apples and oranges. Everyone's different. Everyone has different goals. But I really like that because that's, I think, is probably the first lesson if you're doing anything to competitive, is just to prove yourself and not like really prove everyone else,
Right.
because I think it could get really toxic. Say if you're like trying to prove like a parent something, I think it could get you far, but it's really like a bad mindset to be at. Yeah, for sure. All right, that was awesome. Can you talk about like the nutrition that you go through a fight camp? Can you take me just briefly on before, when you find out you have a fight, and then what your regimen is and how you go about it, and how long is your training camp from when you hear about it? Does it start immediately? Do you have like a 4-week, 6-week kind of camp where you're eating clean, and you're just going ham, like or you're just eating broccoli and chicken breast? Like, what are you doing for those fights, and how are you getting prepped up for those fights?
Yeah. I don't really structure like my lifestyle around training camps, like of any specific length, because I never really know when my fights are going to be. Like, they could be scheduled and someone could pull out, or I might get a short notice fight. Yeah. So I always want to be like ready, or like next to being able to get ready. Right. And like the amount I train like doesn't change.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm always trying to like squeeze the most out of my body every week.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the week, I'm dead. And like leading up to a fight, I would probably even train a little less just so I can recover more. Yeah. But then like all the time after that, I'm just trying to get as much knowledge as possible, and just get my reps in. So as far as like nutrition, I definitely want to be better and like more vigilant about it. But I try to just have meals that have fat, protein, carb, vegetables.
Yeah. Kind of like a balanced diet almost.
Just like, I find that if I just focus the bulk of my food around like stuff that my grandma would probably eat, like stuff that's just food, like not too processed, then I'm good. I do snack a lot, but I think I can get away with it just because I spend so many calories every day.
Yeah, it's true.
But I try not to like have my weight fluctuate a bunch when I'm out of camp, which is never.
Yeah. Does it get out of control sometimes? Well, you just said like never.
Like sometimes, right? But it's never as bad as it seems. Like if I just have a week where I'm just pigging out, maybe like after a fight, or if I have to lose a bunch of weight, then I will like, go the other way just for a little bit, but it's like mostly water weight because that I like after 1 week after a fight, I'm thinking like, oh, the next one. So
right.
Like my body won't allow myself to be too off track.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, what's the biggest? So you started. I remember when you first went to the gym, you started just doing Muay Thai, and then you competed in USMTO. What is the biggest transition going from Muay Thai to MMA as far as striking? Actually, because yes, we all know that we have to grapple and stuff like that, but like as far as striking with the smaller gloves, is it a lot different, or was it an easy transition for you to be able to, and the way that it's different how you move in MMA and compared to Muay Thai? Was it like a hard transition for you, or did it just come like kind of naturally?
It didn't come naturally, but it wasn't like particularly difficult. I just had to realize like where the transitions were, because it wasn't necessarily what I expected.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, like I've got to put myself a little lower for MMA, like anticipate takedowns and be able to be in a position to defend them. So that wasn't honestly that hard to catch on to. It was more like a mental transition to where I had to like get myself away from the concept of who scored what point, and then just think about the fight as the fight, not as a game where you could be up or down. It's just like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just focused.
Like,
yeah.
For Muay Thai striking, like it might be more like stand and bang, like, or a block counter kind of thing. Like if they kick me, I'm gonna kick back immediately because I know they're in a position where I can hit them.
Yep.
And I want to get my point back, right? They kick me, I'm gonna kick them as hard as I can. But like in MMA, like someone kicks you, it's not always worth it to kick back. That could put you out of position. It might not be like a knockout worthy shot or a shot that might lead to a knockout.
Yeah.
So while it might be like a great point scoring strike, or it might make you look like you just hit them hard, might not be worth it.
Yeah.
You know, that could maybe, they know you want to do that because you're from a sport where it goes back and forth, back and forth. They could bait that and then time a takedown or catch it, do whatever.
There's more at stake, right? Like the consequences are probably
so it's more
high
about
on the
like
list.
finding how you're going to get the finish, or at least my focus is more now finding how I'm going to get to the finish rather than like thinking about are they ahead of me on points or not.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Are you moving a lot more in MMA because you have to dodge those punches? Because I know Muay Thai is a little bit of a like stand, like you said, stand and bang and counter. Mm-hmm. Is it MMA? You know, just like kind of what John Wood says. It's kind of like, well, especially for smaller people, like me, of course. You have to get in and kind of get out and then reset and then go back in. How's that transition? You know, it's kind of like, do you feel that way, or are you kind of doing the same things you are in Muay Thai, striking in MMA? Or are you getting out of like the pocket more and then coming back and resetting?
Yeah, I do a lot of the same things, but I just have like, I think I just have different awareness now on like when to do them, and like some things are slightly different.
Yeah.
Definitely am more in and out. Instead of blocking, I'd rather pull, just because if you're blocking, that means they've touched you, so that means they're this close to you,
Right.
which presents different threats. Obviously, it could be a grappling threat or a tie-up. When in Muay Thai, if I'm blocking, I'm gonna hit them back. I don't really care that they're close to me. I want to be close to them too, you know. So it is different. It's different being in the cage too, like having that much space.
Yes.
And I find it's crucial to be the one keeping the center or the one keeping the opponent in the alley. So even if they're a pressure fighter, I'll still try to do everything to pressure them enough so
To pressure them back.
they can be in the alley.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you
We're
think?
in a ring, like, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like in a ring, I feel like you see a lot of Muay Thai fighters like fighting parallel to the ring, or like kickboxing. They fight parallel to the ring, and nobody really like cares. You know, they don't care. Like you could just take one step one side and circle out, and you could have the whole ring. But they don't really care. They're happy to just fight each other instead of fight for position. You know.
Right. I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. Huh. Yeah, that's very interesting. So I guess you could say it's almost a different game because that could make the decision of whether who wins or not, right? Because it's all about positioning, as you were saying.
Like that affects the optics of who looks like they're controlling the fight, but also like someone's against the cage, like they have limited options. You know when they're gonna go left, you can bait them into going right.
And then
so you're kind of like you limit the possibilities of what they could do when you have like much more like room to like do whatever you want to do, right? And then you know they can't move backwards. You can time a takedown, and you know they can't sprawl their legs back or circle out and get space. They have to deal with you where you are.
For basics, like if someone didn't know what they were watching, right? If someone didn't train, or if they trained a little bit, and they were watching like UFC or some MMA match, what do you think makes, personally for you and your perspective, a good fighter? Just the basics of it. Because I asked actually Nas this, and I liked his answer. He said that, you know, as far as like on striking, you just have to keep your base about you, kind of just, don't have like a good foundation, knowing the basics in like defense and all that. But what makes a good fighter for you?
I think there's so many different ways to be a good fighter, but like something that would make me look at someone and say, oh, they're a good fighter, would be like if they're recognizable. Like you should have like a recognizable way about you, like your style, like your goals in each fight, your strategies, and like even how you mentally approach a fight. Like if I can tell that's like by looking at a silhouette that like it's you fighting in there, just by the way you fight and how you exhibit your personality through the way you fight, then it's like good fighter because you're memorable and like you're you, like you've found how to be you.
Interesting. You know what? I really, really like that because, you know, that's probably why most people get into martial arts in the first place, because you don't fight like a certain person, right? You kind of like, you fight how you're gonna fight.
Yeah, that's like one of the most like exciting things about learning martial arts. It's like discovering and piecing together who you are as a fighter. Because you have no idea coming into it what you're gonna be like.
Yeah.
And like even me now, like I have no idea what kind of fighter I'm gonna look like in the future.
Yeah.
And like just after sparring today, I was like in the bathroom, I was just like rinsing out my mouthpiece, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, damn, like me 2 years ago, like I'd be so freaking excited to just have seen what I was doing today.
Yeah.
Or like what I'm doing every day. Like the level I can perform certain things at now, where before it was such a struggle for me. Yeah, that's like I would never expect it.
So yeah, would you agree that growth is probably the most like integral part of overall MMA?
Yes, and also like
and
just
fighting.
not knowing how you'll grow, like just
That's true,
discovering
huh?
that, and like you're knowing that your growth is gonna be different than everyone else's. So like
Yeah, it's almost like you have a visual in your head to where you want to head to, but you don't know how that's gonna come about. Like in your journey, you don't know what you're gonna come across in your journey. And I think if we work hard enough, just in life in general, I think we could get what we want. We just don't know how we're gonna get there.
Right.
Like we just don't know. We're gonna get there, but we just don't know how we're gonna get it.
And we don't necessarily like know what we want either.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's like, I think this applies to everything, like outside of fighting too. But if it's something that you know you could dedicate your life to, like, and you choose not to, like for whatever reason, but if you choose not to, you are depriving yourself, and you're like depriving the world of something like beautiful and masterful. That you don't even know what that is yet, but like you're depriving all of us of like your most incredible self. So like how could you not make that the primary focus of your life to build that and discover what it is?
Exactly. And I obviously, that reminds me, like I obviously write a lot in my journal, and it's like you're gonna die one day and you should probably make the most of the talent that you found. Or the talent that you have, because I mean most of us, I guess you could say just the talent that you cultivate, just because we don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. Like I think we just came across martial, like it's not like I was born and then I was like, yeah, let's do martial arts, or you were born, you were like, oh yeah, like you said that you were watching and then something clicked for you and then you just started training. But I think that's the beautiful aspect of it. So that kind of like leads me into like kind of finding your quote unquote quote passion, because it seems like you found it, right? Like correct, like as far as martial arts.
Definitely.
And I think that for people out there, this podcast is mostly about like finding what you like to do and stuff like that. And I think some people, they think they're just gonna all of a sudden come across what they like to do without working for it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not like, okay, so for example, for you found like you said you saw Ronda Rousey and there's just like some technique to it, and you saw Angela Lee. I keep confusing it with Angela Hill. It's completely two different.
She's awesome too.
Yeah, she's awesome too. But yeah, and then you saw that, and it's not like you were like, oh crap, like I love to do this. No, you had to put in work. It's not like all of a sudden you went in the gym and then actually put in work and then you fell in love with it even more, right?
Yeah, and it's not just putting in work like training or like learning. It's also putting in work like taking little risks, like by doing things that you don't know if you would like, and to like on the way to discovering if it is your passion or not. Because I didn't know that right away. Like first I just wanted to start kickboxing because it looked fun to punch and kick things, and I just wanted to work out, like want to keep myself in shape. And then a few months in, I just started sparring just because a few of my friends are getting ready for their first fights and they needed training partners. Yeah. But like before I was sparring, I didn't know if I would like sparring at all. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel like hitting someone in the face and then they're hitting me. Like, is it going to be like a very emotional thing? Which it is all the time, actually. Then I realized I like sparring. But then I didn't know if I'd like fighting or if I'd be good at it. Like I didn't even know that I would be like a proper amateur fighter. And then until I tried it, not knowing whether I would like it. And then after that, I didn't know if I would like basically dedicating my whole life to it till I tried it and I liked it. So it was like a step-by-step process of discovery. So it wasn't definitely not like the first day I stepped in the gym, I was like, this is it. Because you don't even know if you're like going to be good at it or like if your body is made for it or not.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So would you say that, obviously knowing you at the gym and you're pretty ferocious as far as like your training, in a good way, obviously. Would you say that you're your harshest critic? Do you because personally for me, I know that, sometimes when I don't do good, I kind of beat myself up a little bit, but then I've kind of learned to like tone it down a little bit just because I'm like, well, fuck, like you're putting in the inputs. I mean, eventually you'll get the outputs. Would you say that you kind of like, say, if I'm sure everyone has a training, I'm sure people have shitty training sessions sometimes that they don't expect it to go. Do you consider yourself like that, or are you just kind of like, on to the next one?
I mean, definitely I do like get in my head a lot. Like as far as judging my performance or like even how I felt during a training session. Like sometimes you just like don't want to be there. Like you want to be there, but you don't.
I hear that.
But so then I'll like judge myself for that afterward. I'm like, even if I feel like I went in there, submitted a bunch of people, or like did everything I wanted to work on in training, I'm like, I'm stressed out because I didn't enjoy it enough, whatever that means. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the best like solution to if you get in your head a lot is just to train a whole bunch.
Right.
So you forget about the last one because you're in another training session.
That's very true. It's like a recency effect.
You're looking forward to the next one. So and then like you don't judge each one as like this is a test. It's like you're literally just there to learn.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's good to hear, because that's really what I kind of had to fight myself with, because you want to get better and better. I think you want to progress
but
more.
like getting better doesn't always feel better.
Yeah.
Because like the better you get, the more you're doing wrong.
Right. Like the standards are kind of it raises the bar, right? A little bit for you. Yeah.
And like if you feel like you went in there and won every round, then like you're probably not in a training room where you're gonna grow much.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I have like a really tough day where I feel like just everyone got the better of me, like I didn't accomplish anything, which is weird that you think of it as accomplishment because the goal was to learn in training, right?
Yeah.
But if I feel like that, like I just try to stop thinking about myself so much and like just bring it back to like gratitude. Like how lucky am I to be in a training room where there's so many people that are better than me, like where they have so much knowledge that I don't, that I can learn from, because everyone's so willing to teach me too. So it's not like they're my enemies. Like these are like my allies and like a lot of my closest friends. So how lucky am I to like be challenged and be in a place where I can grow?
That's a great perspective. Yeah, I could take a thing or two for that. I understand that, but sometimes it's just you just get blocked off. Like at least for me, I'm just kind of like, damn, like I did so shitty.
And I can't lie, like obviously when you walk on the mat, your main goal should be like to learn, to improve, and that might not always look like winning, but like as like a fighter, you have to have a healthy ego to ever like even do this in the first place. So there's a little bit of you every time I walk on the mat thinking like, I want to prove something today. Yeah. Like, oh, this person got the better of me last time. Like, I'm going to show them this time. Or like, I just want to look like real good out there. I want to look slick. Like, I want to look like I'm better than this.
Right.
You want to be dominant. So there's a little bit of a performative aspect of training. Yeah,
absolutely. You know what I like there? I like what you just said about having a healthy ego. Because in most jiu-jitsu gyms, I wouldn't say most, but then it's kind of like, the term saying leave your ego at the door? Yeah. We're egocentric people. You know what I mean?
And
we all have it.
So egotistical. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, because that's the truest expression of yourself. How could it not involve your ego?
Yeah, how can you not take it like somewhat personally as far as like yourself? And I really like that. I really like what you said about having a healthy ego instead of having like leaving your ego out the door. It's like, dude, that's like impossible.
Right. And like there are people that do that, but then they're not really training as competitors. Like they might be actually really skilled, but like it's not always skill that wins you a fight. Yeah. You don't even have to be the better fighter to win a fight. You just have to know how to win. And a lot of that could be like mental, or how you view yourself, how you view the fight. If you're viewing it as a game and the other person is viewing it as this fucking life or death, like person who is playing the game might be a much better fighter, but you know, they're not mentally on the same level.
Yeah, it's true. What do you think about? I remember on like one of the videos, Sean Strickland was saying like confidence makes you about 30% better. I think Joe Rogan said that actually, but then confidence just ups your. If you go in there confident, you know, like say with your striking, say on a Saturday sparring, do you think that deems to be true? Or do you think it's just like skill based? Like, well, whatever your confidence is, I mean, your skill's going to carry you over, like Chael Sonnen said, right?
I think it depends on where your confidence comes from. Like, if your confidence comes from your skill and it's like matched at the appropriate level, there's like a golden like ratio of skill to confidence where you have like peak performance. And like, if your skill is above your confidence, then you're always going to underperform, right? But if your confidence is above your skill, like that's how you get knocked out.
Right.
So there's like a Goldilocks, like golden ratio, I think. So if you have like false confidence that comes from like, oh, I stood in the mirror this morning and I said, I'm the best. I'm better than everyone. Yeah, and like you like try to manifest like you being good instead of like actually working for the skills that you have, then like that's just gonna get you messed up in the gym for sure.
Yeah. So would you say like you have to have proof of confidence, not just affirmation?
It has to be like from something real. It can't be like from a delusion. It can't be from like how you want to see yourself. It has to be from your past performances, like who you know you are. And like the best confidence comes from like the work you put in more than like who you are or your particular skill and this or that. Like if you just know that there's like a confidence that comes from knowing you did what you should.
Yeah. So I guess, it's just about doing the work, you would say.
Yeah, pretty much. If your confidence doesn't come from your work, then
it's just delusion.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about your fights. So we were talking about this before the pod, and I went on the gram, saw a little bit of your fights. Would you say you're a pressure fighter through and through, or are you gauging it out depending on their style?
Like in my first year of fighting, when I first started, my coach would always say that Claire's a pressure fighter or Xiaoya's a pressure fighter. She likes to stand and bang. She likes to like be in your face and take away your space.
That's what it looks like.
She doesn't give up any ground. But like in my head, I was like, no, you don't understand. I actually don't have any skills right now. So like the only thing I can be is in your face.
Right.
You know? And I was always smaller than everyone. So it was like, if I wasn't in your face, then like I can't get anything off. You know? So it was kind of like, I got to be like that just to get something.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want...
So at first you were kind of compensating for the skill that you didn't have in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like what I mean about like, it's not always... You don't always need to have better skill. Like if you just have like if you just commit to something enough, like you could break people.
Right.
But then I kind of got away from that because I got better at like moving in and out of space. So I wouldn't say I'm like necessarily a pressure fighter, although it is really fun if you get to be. But I just like to fight. I just want to fight whatever matches like my game plan based on the specific opponent.
Right.
Or, like partner.
Yeah.
So if it's something where I feel like I need to be the pressure fighter in order to win, then I will be. If it's better to like pop out a lot, just be on the outside and counter, move around more, like then I will do that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like say I'm one thing or the other.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say something like, oh, I'm a striker, or I'm a kicker, or this or that. Just I feel like thinking like that limits you. So yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever gets the job done is what I want to do.
Right. Yeah. You're right. You said it right there. Whatever what gets the job done. What is your... So overall, when we package everything with confidence and hard work, what is your definition of success? Just maybe in life in general. What you've maybe taken from MMA. What has... You know what? Let's stick with that. What has training martial arts taught you about life in general? Your biggest takeaways, not just one, but your biggest takeaways.
Yeah. Like the most beautiful thing about training martial arts, whether you fight or not, is that like everything is earned. Like you're not gonna be able to buy your way up like you could in a lot of things, or like you can't take anything into the gym with you. Like whether like you're rich or like you have a lot of power in this thing or another, or you have a fancy job, like you can't take that on the mat with you. And everything that you can do on the mat and how you're seen and like who you are is everything you've given yourself, like which the work that you put in, like all the hours, all the training. So there's like nowhere you can hide.
Yeah.
That's like
beautiful.
my favorite thing. And
That's
like
beautiful.
that's how you should approach life. Like you should know that like everything you put in is what you get out.
Yes. Yeah. What's another thing? That was beautifully said, by the way. It makes me this conversation makes me realize the things. I like that. I like the healthy ego one. That's a good one. You know, the one that you said, yeah, because it is your purest form. There's nowhere to hide. Your training, your sparring, how you hit pads, just the way you look when you're hitting pads. It just shows the amounts of reps that you've done. You can't. That's something that you can't fake. It's not like you do 21 twos and all of a sudden your form looks really, really good, right?
Right.
Like it's smooth like water. Like it flows like water. It's not like...
And like another thing, like everything that, all the things that come to you, like you learn that like that's what you really deserved. And like if you have a complaint about it, then you got to change your actions so that you become the kind of person that deserves the kind of things that you want.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I had another point.
Yeah.
But it'll come to me later.
No, that's all right. No, that was great. But yeah, I mean, that's so in the beginning, that's why I wanted to talk to Xiaoya, because I think it's very insightful. I think martial artists, they do have like, I think a lot of it goes hand in hand as far as like the training and the people, even the social skills that you get and the training and, you know, how you have camaraderie with people. You have to be somewhat versatilely smart in order to do martial arts. You know, I know a lot of people from the outside perspective, it's just kind of like, why are they, you know, why are they like punching each other in the face? People that watch UFC, you know, and I think you somewhat have to be, I'd say kind of a deep thinker, because if you're trying to plan out for a fight, if you're trying to plan it out, you connect two and two when you just kind of live life and connect everything about martial arts. For instance, like discipline, right? Like you got to get up every morning, and then you could, being punctual, you got to apply that to like everything. You have to make it to your training sessions to get shit done. So consistency, that's another one that I've learned. This is like the quote of the year for me. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm consistent as hell.
Yes.
You know, I like this quote by this girl, like Amelia Boone. She's like some badass chick. She says that I'm not the best at everything, but I know how to suffer than more people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's something I wanted to talk about earlier when like I'm thinking about advice I'd give to people that are new to this sport.
Yeah.
Or advice to people that are in the process of discovering their passion in life. You don't have to be good at it, like for it to be your thing, or at least like not right away. And I think talent like matters so little.
Yeah.
Like it almost doesn't even matter in terms of success. It just matters in terms of like what your success looks like. Because if you think about something like MMA, it's such an open-ended sport, like fighting. You could use anything to win. Like you could win by being athletic. You could win by being powerful, fast. You could win by being really fast, really smart. You can win just by having the best strategy. And there's so many ways to win and lose that like just having advantage in one thing or disadvantage in the other, that could matter so little. So like how you are, like your first day at the gym, your first month at the gym, your first year, the only thing that I would look at in a new fighter and be able to predict whether they're gonna make it like and be successful as a professional fighter or not is never like, oh, how do their punches look? How do their kicks look? Are they rolling good on the mats? Like, can they wrestle? Can they defend a takedown? I don't think about any of that stuff. The stuff that I look at is like, how often do I see them in the gym? How much do they love this sport? Do they study it outside of the gym? Are they committed to it? Like, do they say things and then don't do them, or they're like a person that takes action? Like if I see all those qualities in a person, I'm like, I don't care if you're like overweight, you're super unathletic, can't even do a forward roll, you're slow, even if you're a little dumb. Like honestly, like all those things won't get in the way of your success if you just keep at it and you have the right attitude.
Yeah.
And you could be the most talented athletic person in the world. You could have like crazy one-punch knockout power. Could be like super, super fast. But like if you're just inconsistent and you don't really like the sport, like you're not going to do shit in the sport.
100%. I talked to Aram about that, about like, you know, we have new people coming in the gym and all the time, but you know, I mean, it's actually just actions over, you know, like it's just a behavior. That's a behavior when they consistently show up every day. That means that's the biggest evidence that you have on a person, regardless of what they say. It's what they do. So you're right, 100% agree. If they show up every day at the gym, well, that's all you need to know. Like they're there every single time. And this is actually science that if you show up every day, you're going to get good at whatever the fuck you're doing.
Right. That's
like there's no way you can get shittier.
That's what I tell people, like when they're worried about like, am I doing the right things to make progress? Or like, I really want to get good fast. Like what I do, I'm like, dude, just put in more hours than you think you can.
Yeah.
And then you will get good against your own freaking will.
Right.
Like you can put in the hours, just be there and like try to not get good.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll give you $1 billion if you don't get good. Okay.
Yeah.
So just go
That's
to
so
the gym.
Funny. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy I listen to. He's like a business podcast. His name's Alex Ramosi, but then he says the same thing. Okay. So say if you did want to get good, say if you started off late, or if you were fighting and you wanted to get good really fast, yeah, just put in twice the amount of time. Not really work, but like the iterations that you do. Because look, he puts it like this. Say if, let's just take you for example, right? If another person goes over there, she's like, yeah, I want to be like Xiaoya and I want to get as good as her. Okay, well, let's put in the time as much as she does. So, okay, here's the balance. You're kind of evened out. Well, the thing is that you're also only going to get better, right? So you just have to put in more time. Honestly, it is true what they say. It's just when people say, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? Especially when they're starting off. And I'm not like a coach or anything, but then it's almost like just show up. Just get your ass here. Because I don't know how there's so many variables on you getting taught, you know, this move or you getting taught this principle of fighting. It's that you're just going to put it all together. But if you're not here, you're not going to be able to do that, are you?
Right.
Yeah.
And also like, it is not enough to just be somewhere. Like if you're putting in like only half effort every time, you're not like thinking like deeply about the things you're learning or trying to connect them together. And you're not like testing yourself consistently. Like I don't think it's just like pure math. Like that would mean like if someone started before me or is older than me, that means like I could never beat them in a fight. You develop your own skill set so much that it becomes like it's a game. Like you use what you have against what they have, and it's not hours against hours. It's you and all your skills against them and all their skills. So you have to train deliberately. Like you have to be smart about it. It's not just about I'm gonna kick 5 million times and I'm gonna have the best kick in the world. Like yes, kick a lot. You get the technique part down and you know the motion of it, but now you gotta learn like when to kick. So then you gotta be in front of a real person. Then you gotta time things off of your kick. Then you gotta know who to kick and whether it's worth it to kick at this time or that time. So you gotta like think, like kind of philosophize about the way you're fighting.
Yeah, like you said, deliberate, right? That's the perfect word for it. And yeah, it's kind of what I meant, like with the, you know, match your time. Like say you deliberately, you know, train, right? Like you're intentional about your training. I guess I'm talking about like, say if someone did the same exact thing as you did, you know what I'm saying? Not like, if they kick like, 10,000 fucking a bag, then all of a sudden they're better than you. It's almost like if they did the exact same things as you did, but then double that, I mean, what do you think the outcome's going to be, right? It's almost like, oh, okay. So I think that's what he was like referring to. Well, yeah, I mean, that's fucking awesome, man. See, this is exactly why I wanted you on the pod, because I knew that lion was going to come out. I got literally what I got out you, and you taught me a lot today in this podcast about just your mindset and your great work ethic. And yeah, man, like this was a learning experience for me for sure. And thank you for the time. Thank you, Coach over there. Thank you for being here as well. And awesome. Thank you for being here. Let's
Chris.
go.